So this is Laura O'Brien from lauraobrien.business, and I am a successful author and spiritual entrepreneur who runs a multi-stream business in Irish pagan publishing and education. And we're here doing the first actually of our free 15-minute business consultations. So first up we have Jess. So Jess, do you want to introduce yourself here?
Sure. I'm Jess. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am a trans man that lives in Central California. And I'm trying to, I'm looking into starting my own spiritual centered business, specifically around community. I've been doing bits and pieces for a long time in a nonprofit sense, and I feel it's time for me to start doing it full time and to be able to take care of myself as well as my community.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things I have, I feel going against me, I think can be summed up in imposter syndrome. And that I feel, right? Like someone reminded me the other day, like, you've been doing some type of organizing or activism for 10 years. Why do you feel like you're not able to, to do this? And it's like, well, I don't have the credentials, or I don't have the, I've only been doing the spiritual part for 3 years, and so it's stuff like that. So I guess the question is, the biggest part is, how do I bring, well, I guess two, how do I bring all these pieces of activism and organizing around my spiritual practice and hopefully business, and how do I get out of my own way? How do I, get past, the feeling that I'm not qualified to do this?
Yeah. Okay. Nice big one to start with.
You asked for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And just for the record, I don't know what's coming with these questions, so it's all off the cuff, right?
Yeah.
So, first up, as you say, you've a load of kind of disparate pieces and a lot of experience in different kind of areas, but they all have a common theme, if you like, or you would like them all at least to have a common theme, which is how can I serve a community, right? So is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So your first question would be who exactly you're serving, right? And I know, like, we talk about, or in business circles, like a lot of people talk about, oh, you have to find your avatar and everything. And like, that's all well and good, like, but if you start kind of digging into demographics and that, you're going to lose it. You're going to absolutely just lose it. You'll get caught up in what you should and shouldn't be doing. And, statistics wise, it might feel overwhelming. And that's obviously going to impact the second part of the issue with the imposter syndrome, like, and you just kind of get stuck in that, right? But what I want you to do is think about somebody that you have helped, and you've helped in a way that has felt really, really good to you and really valuable to them. Okay, so you don't have to give that example now, but I want you to really kind of think about that and remember that. Okay. So is there somebody that you can think of off the top of your head, or would you have to kind of put some thought into that?
I do actually have examples of specifically doing divinations for folks, where after the reading and them actually moving forward, it actually worked out in the way that, and they were very excited and thankful and grateful. And I didn't think, me being able to connect with my gods in that way could actually benefit other people. So that was the first real kind of light bulb moment of like, oh, this is actually something I can do. This is a gift I have.
Yeah.
So.
And is divination, like, what actually would you like to be doing in your business?
I think that's a little harder to describe right now.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's okay. We can, I mean, you should really be starting with the person first anyway. So, like, this is why this is your first step, right?
Hmm.
So, I would say, if there's somebody like that that you have helped, that it has been specifically valuable to them. So there's, and I know just from personal experience. Okay, I was a professional tarot reader when I was 18 years old, right? And have had a long and varied history with that. So I didn't put that in my bio, but that was there. Working fairs and festivals and all sorts of weird stuff. I even did crystal readings for a while,
Oh,
but
wow.
way, way back in the day. But one of the things that I know from divination, especially when you're dealing with imposter syndrome, is there's two kind of things that you can take away from that, right? So one would be, oh my God, this works. Like the kind of the proof that this actually works because the things that you predicted have come true, right? And what I'd like you to do is kind of separate that out for a second and look at the cases that you can think of where it has been the most valuable for somebody, as in, like, life changes or physical manifestations that they really needed, or health clarity, or any, do you know what I mean, like anything that's kind of practically useful, because
Hmm.
that's less subjective, right?
Hmm.
um with the imposter syndrome, I'm kind of answering both here a little bit, but with the imposter syndrome, it's very easy to sorry, it's more objective rather than subjective. I got that wrong. um it's very easy to, when we have subjective successes, it's very easy to write them off because our brains are horrible, right? And oh, that was a fluke, or well, it used to work but it doesn't work anymore. Do you know what I mean? And it can be, the more intangible things can be harder to kind of hold on to, where if you have something where you can actually think about somebody that you helped and look at their life, right, and say, well, oh look, they got that job that I predicted that they were going to get, or they got out of that relationship because I advised them to, or my gods advised them to, or whatever guys you're using or working with. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So if you can, what I'm trying to do is narrow the focus here, right? Because what I really want you to do is pick one person that fits those criteria. Okay. And when we're thinking of who you're serving, that's who you're talking to. That's who you're problem solving for. So like if you're making content, I know you've been doing Facebook Lives recently and serving the community that way. So fair play to you for that. Good, absolutely great step. Um, but uh, you can actually like talk to that person. Or if you're sitting down to think about what I want to talk to, what I want to talk about today, or you could even ask them, get them on a quick Zoom call, or send them an email and say, we had a tarot session, or we had a divination session, um, and I was wondering, like, what's the biggest problem you're dealing with right now? Do you know, I mean, that's a very general question. You've all been on the receiving end of that from me as I start this new kind of venture. And if you're familiar with my other business as well, like, it is the number one question I keep cycling around to. I ask it on Facebook, I ask it in my email list, I ask it on YouTube. And now I get a lot of feedback on that, right? Not so much here yet, but definitely in the spiritual business that I run, there's a huge amount of feedback, and I couldn't possibly get to everybody's, right? But I keep a list of it all. And what I do is I look for the most common questions, and then I'll pick an example of that one thing that I can answer, or that I can help with, or that I can create a product or a course around.
Mm.
Um, so that's the kind of general direction. But like, it all has to start with your kind of your ideal community member. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So to bring in a little bit of spirituality into this, and I think we're probably gone over our time, but to bring a little bit of spirituality into this as well, I actually want you to sit down for 7 days, right? And just take a few minutes to actually, this is a practical step for your imposter syndrome, because I know you had kind of two questions, right? Um, so the first one, just to clarify, the first one, your next step is to really get clear on who that person is, who you're talking to, who you're communicating with, right? Who's your ideal community member, and think about them. Even write it down, okay? Write down, what you know about them, what their life is, You know, and if you don't know them very well personally or anything like that, you can fill in a little bit of gaps with, you know, maybe they have a cat, or, you know, like,
Yeah.
um, with your general knowledge of who you want to be dealing with. That makes sense. But all the time you want to kind of keep it focused on this one person. And this one person can be fictional or real, you know, but I'm just saying, because you're relatively new to it, it's easier to start on somebody that you've actually had interaction with, rather than trying to amalgamate all your experiences into one kind of ideal, which is where I think a lot of new people, you know, a lot of the advice to find your ideal business avatar kind of falls down, because people, when they're starting out, they don't have the range of experience that they need to imagine, you know, to condense it all into this one person, right?
Hmm.
And this could change over time, and that's fine. But in your journal, on your computer files, whatever way you do it, actually make a document, you know, new page in your notebook, whatever way, and write in everything that you know about this person. Okay. And for 7 days, right, create content. So it could be just a Facebook post, right? But create
Hmm.
content that you think, or a share, or it could be a Facebook Live topic, or it could be, you know, whatever content. So for 7 days, you're creating content that specifically speaks to this person, right? And not obviously by name, right?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But that's who you're imagining. And look at the document that you've created before you start anything like that, and just think, I'm writing this email to that person. I am, you know, this Facebook post, as if you're sharing it to their wall, right? Do you know, I found this thing and I thought you'd like it, right? You can share it obviously publicly on your own Facebook, or, you know, whatever social media you're using. Um, so 7 days content creation for your ideal customer. And at the end of that 7 days, think about, is that working or is that not working, you know? Um, but that's definitely the start of attracting more people like that. And once you start to gather that community around you, and it can be quite amorphous at this stage, you don't have to worry about exactly what it is or exactly what you're going to be offering them or anything. Community is always the first step, right? So just tiny other practical stuff. I I do a YouTube video yet about, I think I did, about I'm not even sure if I did. If I didn't, I will have to do one about choosing a primary method of community building. So usually it's either a blog, um, a YouTube channel, or a blog, a YouTube channel, or a podcast would be the three top ones, because they are all searchable. Another kind of secondary one would be to write an ebook, because that's searchable. But those are utilizing the biggest search engines. So if you have a blog, you're utilizing Google. YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world. And podcast, you know, is on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, all those big search engines. And and then obviously with an ebook you have the big devil Amazon, right? But
Right.
it's searchable, right? So what you're trying to do is start to create content that is going to keep working for you in the long term, right? Because with the social media account or with the social media post, you have maybe the lifespan of that is very short. Where the content that you start creating now, the earlier you start creating content on one of those four platforms, and pick one, just pick one and just focus on that, right? So do you have any of those going already?
Um, I would, I would, I would say probably the Facebook.
Right. But you don't have a
I don't have
blog,
a blog. I don't have a YouTube. I
YouTube.
don't have a podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would be, it's not a failure, it's okay. It's not, um, but so a little secondary thing then to think about for next week, right? So for now, just use your Facebook, right? 7 days of creating content to your ideal avatar. Um, for your for next week, you know, maybe be thinking through the week how that's working out for you, and which of those four mediums you'd be most comfortable in, and which would be the one that you can kind of start working on. And if you have a blog, you know, you get a certain amount of posts, you can make it into an ebook. If you have a YouTube channel, you know, you can either take the audio from that and turn it into a podcast, or You can get them transcribed and put them onto a blog, so like you can cross over those mediums, but for now you can just focus on one, right? Don't want to overwhelm you.
Mhm.
So are we clear on that?
Yes.
Right. So write down your avatar and 7 days of, say, social media sharing to that person, right? And
Right.
then reassess. Um, on the other thing, what I want you to do on the imposter syndrome is, what I want you to do is actually, um, as you're sitting down, take a few minutes to actually just go back through the memory of the memories, say, but ideally your avatar, your customer, your ideal customer, the memory of helping that person, right? And it's a visualization process that, it sounds really simple, okay, but most people don't do it. But if you're doing that every day, what you're doing is literally rewiring your brain. Your brain doesn't know the difference between, actual lived experiences and memories. You can visualize, and your brain thinks you've already done it, but it works the same for memories that you can rewire your brain to focus on the positive rather than focus on the negative, right? And for those of us with imposter syndrome, and hands up, definitely, for those of us with imposter syndrome, we get very, very focused. The big stuff blows up, the bad stuff blows up, and it obliterates everything. Even it could be one bad thing in a sea of like 100 good things, but um, you know, it just takes over, right? And it becomes the proof then that you're the worst ever and you've nothing going for you, and all those horrible things that we say to ourselves. And that, for most people with imposter syndrome, that for whatever reason or wherever it came from, or there's usually a multiple different reasons. What it does is it really affects your ability to focus on the positive. So that's a little kind of side project, a little side exercise that's going to take a lot longer, right? And it's not as easy as 7 Facebook posts, right?
Right.
But it is a visualization process and a focus process that is the start, hopefully, of a lifelong habit of just doing exercises like that every single day. And it needs only take a minute, right? You can do it when you're sitting on the jacks in the morning if you want to. That's the toilet. Sorry for anybody who
Yeah.
doesn't understand it. And like, sorry for being crude, like, but I say stuff like that because it's like people kind of get caught up. Oh, I have to sit down and I have to do my candles and my incense and all the music playing and all. Bullshit. You don't. Look in the mirror and just look at your face and just tell yourself before you leave your bedroom in the morning that I am a person who helps people. I am a person who is of service to people. And here's this memory, and like replay that memory for yourself, right? And it takes time because you have a lifetime worth of programming yourself in the wrong direction, right? It does take time, but over time, you will see that you can start to focus. You can start to put aside, you'll be more aware of negative stuff coming in for a start because you've set the tone, right? So you're going to be more aware when negative stuff starts to creep in, where a lot of the time that's very unconscious. And we might catch ourselves after an hour of like just feeling like shit, and it's like, why do I feel like shit? Oh, I've just been telling myself how shit I am for the last hour and how nothing I do ever works out. And and you can kind of rewind the tape and
Start
oh
over.
yeah, yeah. I did that to myself. Okay, that's why I feel like shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just realized I wasn't recording any of that. I was.
No.
I was.
Okay.
No, I
Okay, you
was.
are. Woo.
Was. Totally know all this tech. It's fine. It's fine. We're good. We're good. Okay, Jess, does that help? Do you know where you're going now?
So yeah, it's a good starting place, and to start making the content happen, and also yes, to basically look myself in the eye every morning and go, no, you're actually doing good things.
Yeah,
I think that will be, it will help. Um, thank you so much
you're welcome.
for the overtime that you
Sorry,
put
yeah.
into this question. Um, yeah, I really appreciate you doing this work for all of us.
I think the time is very appropriate. So I will be doing more 15-minute sessions with people. So the link is down below. And if you're watching this on the YouTube, the link is down below, and you can book your own session for the next time we do the next round. Okay. Okay.